Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the horror movie in theaters right now called Strangers Chapter 1. I am very disappointed with this movie. Let's talk about it.
Modern movie review.
Okay, so right off the bat, I do want to go ahead and say, you guys can expect one of those explanatory, okay, I said something really mean about this video, so now I have to do something nice. So in the next couple of days, expect to see a video titled, like, Disney is still good, or some video where I'm talking about mostly positive things about a movie, because this movie, I don't think I have a single positive thing to say about it. Overall, this movie was pretty bad. I'm going to issue a spoiler warning for people who have not seen the movie, but I genuinely don't think that my spoilers could potentially ruin this film for you. The movie did a good enough job of ruining itself for itself. So, right off the bat, I want to go ahead and say my biggest complaint about this movie, and there are a lot of complaints to make about this movie, but the biggest one, this movie is an hour and 30 minutes long. It feels like the entire film could have been a 12-minute long short film on YouTube. And another thing is, this movie is about an $8.5 million budget, and I think if you take away the fact that the main actress is Madeline Petch, and the secondary actor is somebody who's on Teen Wolf, and somebody who's talented and kind of like a C-list, B-list celebrity, whatever, this movie definitely feels like it could have been made with a $5,000 budget. Like I said, this movie feels like it could have been a 12-minute long video on YouTube, and it definitely feels like something that, like, could have been recorded very easily on an iPhone, and it definitely could have just had like a group of friends getting together over the summer at like a little summer camp or like a cottage in the woods somewhere, and they could have just been like, yo, let's just film a random horror movie, and it would have been better than this, because this movie is so painfully bad. Like I mentioned, this movie's incredibly long. There is about an hour worth of scenes that is literally just people wandering around, whether it's the bad guys wandering around in the middle of the woods, whether it's Madeline Petch's character wandering around the cabin, kind of like looking around and being like, oh my god, I'm really lonely and I'm really sad. Why did I tell my boyfriend to go leave and go get food or whatever? And then like stuff with like her boyfriend just randomly wandering around like a shed by himself, not really, doing anything to help move the plot along. This movie is just painfully slow. It's really dragged out. It definitely feels like one of those movies where they're like, okay, well, it needs to be at least an hour and 20 minutes long so it could be in theaters. Let's just go ahead and add a bunch of extra stuff of people just walking around, because genuinely speaking, I don't get why so many of the things that happen in this movie happen. Like, I could genuinely probably list off about 20 sequences that happen in the movie that you could just take out of the movie and it won't affect anything at all. And I understand that part of the reason why some of these sequences are as dragged out as they are and are as long as they are is to kind of build tension and kind of like help people feel like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Something's going to happen soon. Oh my god, somebody's about to get stabbed. One of the people who are trying to chase them down is going to jump out of nowhere. And it gets to a point where there are some sequences where, like, instead of being like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Is somebody going to jump out? It's like, can somebody please hurry up and jump out? I am so tired of watching this person just walking in a straight line. And another thing, these might be the two dumbest protagonists in a horror movie I have ever seen. Because on top of it just being them being particularly stupid, and almost every decision that they make just helps them get further and further into a bad situation, they just do so many boneheaded things. I think one of the first ones, and this is something that's going to drive me insane, because in any movie where this happens, it kills me. The entire movie would not have happened if they had just done a normal person thing. They get off the highway because they're hungry, right? And they're on this really long road trip. They're about 5 hours away from the place that they're going to be going to. They're in the middle of nowhere, essentially. And the main guy starts complaining about how he's really hungry. And Madeline Petch is just like, you know what, that's okay. Just get off the exit. Just get off the exit right here, and we'll find food somewhere. And I kind of understand the thought process of, yeah, we can just get off an exit. I'm sure we'll find food. But at the same time, why would you drive on random off-roads and back roads in the middle of nowhere expecting to find food? You guys were on a highway. I'm sure if you stayed on that highway for long enough, you could have found an actual restaurant that would have been right off the highway. It's implied that after they get off the highway, they drive for at least 45 minutes to get to the random of the middle of nowhere place that they end up at, which I understand needs to happen so that the plot can happen. But it's so irritating how dumb these main characters are. If you stay on the highway, for one, she has phone access. She's literally on her phone the majority of the movie. Why doesn't she look up, okay, restaurants near me, and then you guys go find a close restaurant? You guys went to some diner in the middle of nowhere that you probably wouldn't even be able to find on Google Maps. Like, this is just painfully idiotic. Like, all of the main characters are just so painfully idiotic. I have a bunch of nitpicks about this movie. One, like I said, Madeline Petch's character is on her phone a lot. She never charges her phone a single time. There's so many moments where I'm like, okay, the jump scare is going to be that her phone dies. And it never does. And it drives me insane because I'm like, why can't my phone battery life last that long? Like, oh my god. But anyways, that, like I said, random nitpick. But there's just so many moments like that. The first moment where there's like somebody in the house or whatever and Madeline Petch is alone, she freaks out. She runs away. She runs up the stairs and into a room where there's no other exits and there's no way she could possibly escape the situation that she's in. And then another thing that drives me insane is she has her flashlight on because the power in the house just went out. She leaves her flashlight on after going into said room where she is hiding out. Turn your flashlight off, because if they see the flashlight, they know exactly where you are. That's irritating. There is a moment towards the end of the movie, they're crawling under like this little crawl space underneath the house trying to escape. They finally get out from underneath the crawl space and they finally, have a chance to make a break for it. And they comically say, and obviously this wasn't meant to be a joke. This was supposed to be a completely serious thing. Okay, let's go hide in the shed. Like, what? What are you talking about? Go hide in the shed. That's literally like the stupid, I think it's Progressive, who has the commercials where it's just like, if you're in a horror movie, you make dumb decisions. It's what you do. It was literally one of those moments where they're like, okay, well, we could potentially run to the road and then just run as far as possible. Or we can go hide in a shed. And then the second they get into the shed, they start talking at a regular volume again. And they are in the middle of nowhere. They've made so many comments about how it's so quiet out here. Nobody can ever hear anything. You guys are speaking out loud. And the people who are in the house, presumably you are assuming they're in the house, could probably hear you because you guys are speaking so loudly now and you're in a tiny shed. What are they doing? Overall, I will say this movie is 10 times more irritating than it is scary. Every single time there is finally a jump scare or there's a moment where it's supposed to be scary, it's not, because it's like, thank God something is finally happening in this movie. There are multiple moments where like the two main characters are like sharing like a very like emotional and like romantic moment, and it's like, oh my god, finally they're doing stuff. And then like something will happen and it's like, okay, thank you, because what is happening right now? Why are we having these moments? And why are like the killers letting them have these super long, thought out emotional conversations? Like, But yeah, that's something that's frustrating. Another thing that's really frustrating to me, the end of this movie, I'm not going to get too far into it because I'm trying not to spoil it too much in case somebody out there does really still want to go watch this movie after everything I've said. The ending of the movie is one of the worst endings to a movie I think I've ever seen in the history of ever. And this movie is not like, it's called Chapter 1, but it's not like, it wasn't advertised as being like a part 1 of a part 2 series. It wasn't advertised as being like, okay, there's going to be 4 more of these or 5 more of these. So I genuinely, low-key, would not be surprised if they don't end up making a part 2 to this, but it ends with a to be continued thing that is incredibly ridiculous, incredibly stupid. One of my main complaints that I have about it is Madeline Petch's character calls the police show up at the house or whatever that she's at, and the main thing that I have a problem with is when we see the police officers earlier in the movie, we see them at this little local diner or whatever, and they're, they seem really annoyed that there are people from out of town in their small little town. It seems like the police officers are 100% in on the fact that there are these serial killers who go around and just kill people who aren't from town. So the fact that they call the police officers and it magically works and they come to save the people doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't gel well with me. Another thing, they're staying at some sketchy Airbnb overnight for one night, and Madeline Petch's character is like, oh my god, well, I'm really hungry. It's 11 o'clock at night, and you guys are in a town that you've already established only has a population of 489 people. Why would you assume that there is some form of open restaurant somewhere where you can go get food? Another thing is, part of the reason why the boyfriend is leaving in this moment is so that he can go to his car, which is currently at an auto shop, probably about like 5 or 10 miles away, just to get an inhaler for the night, because the next day they're planning on going back to that auto shop to pick up their car. Why does he need his inhaler for one night? Like, that is such a massive, oh my god. This movie was frustrating. It was genuinely frustrating. To anybody who hasn't seen this movie, you guys are in luck. Don't watch it. It's not worth it. That being said, low budget horror movie. I think that this movie probably will make its budget back opening weekend because the theater that I saw it in, it was like the most packed that I've seen that theater in a hot minute. So good for them. They're getting some attention. Hopefully other people have better responses to it than I do. I do know when I was looking at it on Letterboxd, there are some people who were giving it like 3 stars and 4 stars. So like there are some people out there who probably are a better audience for it. I'm just incredibly impatient as somebody who grew up. Every horror movie I watched were like horror short films on YouTube. So like when you can watch a 8-minute long horror movie on YouTube and it's significantly better than a full-length feature horror film, yeah, it's a little painful. It's a little painful. And then I think one of the big things that kills me about it with the pacing and the timing and how long this movie takes is it's an hour and a half long and it takes place over the time span of one night. And I'm used to movies like, you know, the Scream movies. They take place over the course of a couple days. Movies like Thanksgiving, it takes place over a couple days. And so like for it to all take place over the time span of one day and it take an hour, that's also another reason why it just felt super long to me, because usually movies that are about an hour long can take place over multiple days, and it's okay for it to take place over multiple days. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate. Oh wait, I almost forgot to do an actual final rating for this movie. Yikesies. I think that this might be one of the worst movies I've seen so far this year. I'm gonna give it a solid like 26 out of 100. Not a lot of redeeming qualities. It made me laugh a couple of times. Not for good reasons. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow.
Back at it again, but that's a relevant flow. So smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.